Hello everyone, this is Amethyst from Amethyst Creations, and I welcome you to the third part of the Junk Mail Envelope series. I hope you enjoy. I just realized I used the wrong one. That's okay. And now we get to stamp it. So this huge floral sticker, or stamp, not sticker. Unfortunately, it does not have a label on it, so I don't know who made it. So I can't, I don't know where you can buy this. Because I also bought it from a secondhand shop, I think just a thrift store. I think it might have been Goodwill. Debating. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a lot of colors with this one, and I hope that it shows up on this page. We will find out if it does. So I'm going to use a mixture of bundled sage, peeled paint, peacock feathers. Leave that to the main body here. And let's do vintage photo for the edge here. There we go. Oh yeah, this is upside down. That's okay. Press, 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 press. Oh, you can kind of see that. That's pretty. And just for fun of it. Just for added texture. Let that dry. Let's see. There we go. Still quite a bit of smudging. I'm wondering if there's ink left over on the pad. Yeah, there's a little bit of ink on the pad, so I'm going to wipe that off a little bit. Alrighty, the pad is now dry and clean. We can get on to finishing this. There we go. And because of the ink and everything rubbing off on here, it left quite a bit of smudges. So what I'm thinking is just straight on adding lace or something to the edges. And here I have two different kinds of lace I got from Joann's, a local fabric store. I say local, but I'm fairly certain there's quite a few Joann's across the United States. So you can also just hit any fabric store and see if they have them. I'll post a link down below as well if you guys are interested, but I don't know if these ones are sold so much online as they're just there in the store. Because sometimes Joann's does that. They have things that are not really on the website yet. Alright. So this is wedding lace. It's so pretty. I love wedding lace. I like this one better. So let's go ahead and cut to size. So for this, I'm actually using my fabric scissors because paper scissors aren't going to cut it. So I got the railroad songs no longer stuck in my head. Instead I have Adam Lambert, Entertain You. I'm Here to Entertain You, that song. Now that one's stuck in my head. Very nice. Now I just need to figure out what we're gonna put here. Gotta cover up the bottom here. Oh, that's pretty. Just a bit of sari silk. I can add another detail here, just for fun. Ooh, that's fun. So this little piece came from actually my nearby Dollar Tree. So it's just laser cut, really thick cardboard? That's not even cardboard. What's it called? It's like layers and layers of paper that are glued on top of each other. Essentially cardboard. I'm just gonna go do this. Oh, there we go. A little bit lighter. Ooh, that's actually kind of pretty. Okay, I'm not trying to make it perfect. I'm just trying to get it to be a lighter color than what it was. There we go. Leave that to the side. I'm gonna let that dry and then I'll do a smudge test to make sure that the oxide stuck to it. If not, then I'm not gonna worry about it too much. There's like markers that I can use instead if I want to get a color, like a paler color. So, no stress. So for this, I'm actually just going to stick to doing a 3-in-1 glue, just because I want to make sure this is not going to go anywhere. The double-sided sticky tape would work well too, but as you noticed, I did have to remove this part in order to work on this board, so it didn't stick so much, because it wasn't really coming off the glass very well. I guess there's no wrong side to this fabric. It's so pretty. I really love the look of silk and lace. To be frank, I like the look of any textures and stuff like that off of fabric. one of the videos I'm planning to make is actually going to incorporate different fabrics, like different laces and things like that. So subscribe if you want to see that video eventually show up. Oh my goodness. I'm not gonna lie, I was not planning to say that. Like, I've watched YouTube videos and I've seen people say, you know, hit the like button and subscribe. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just not something that I really think about on my own for myself kind of thing. It's just one of those things that I see in other videos. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'm talking about a video and I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I should say that too. I will be, it felt a little bit odder than I thought it was going to be, me saying it out loud. But there it is. If you're interested, just please let me know. Because I think YouTube has, what is it? They disengage or something. Like, they remove the dislike button. So I won't know if you're unhappy with this channel. But if you're happy with this channel, please let me know with the like button or comment. I would really actually appreciate the comments because I like hearing from people and seeing, you know, seeing what other people are thinking. And now we add the lace. But first I'm going to age the lace. Alright. Just figure out which side's the right side. Which way is the wrong side. And you may ask, like, what the difference is. Like, with fabric. It doesn't really matter in junk journaling that I noticed. If you plan to go over with distressing or whatever. But if you want to leave it as is and you want to know what side is the right side and what side is the wrong side. When it comes to embroidery, the right side is always the smoother side. So you see the leaves, they're just like fully embroidered. There's no seam line. But if you look at the wrong side, you can kind of see that line going through it. And also the back part of it's always flatter. The right side is always going to be rounder. It's going to be smoother and rounder, while the back side is always going to be more flat and slightly matte in color, while this side is going to be a little bit more shiny. So that's the difference between the right side and the wrong side. And when it comes to junk journaling, if you're dyeing over it, you're kind of getting rid of that shininess anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I've also noticed, personally for me, sometimes I'll intentionally use the wrong side for, like, you see that ridge that I was talking about, that seam line? It almost looks like the vein of a leaf. Or like a vein of the flower petals and stuff like that. And it actually looks pretty neat. And I'll leave that alone. Just depends really on my mood. But here, I'll go ahead and stain both sides so you can kind of see what I'm getting at. And maybe it'll show up on the camera a little bit better. But here's like the walnut stain. You kind of see the dark line. And then you see this one? There's not that dark line. Like, you get like dark strands because some of the strands take the ink a little bit more, but overall it's a lot smoother, as you can see. So that's the wrong side where you actually get the lines that look like veins. So that's a slight difference. There we go. Now you know. If you didn't know. If you already knew, well, thank you for sitting around and listening to me ramble off. Let's do a lighter color. Vintage. bit of blue throughout. A fun little comparison side to side. There we go. And now I'm essentially repeating it on the opposite side, but I'm not going to make it exactly the same because even the cut is not the right area. Like one's cut at the half mark way and the other one isn't. So I'm just mirroring it, I guess you can say, as much as possible. There we go. Now for this lace, I'm just going to do, this is really wavy. It's not like you can really go in a straight line. I wonder if I benefit from doing it this way. So what I decided to do is I just went ahead and put a bead of glue along the wavy part here, and then on the outside edge of each frill. But it's a light coating of glue. I'm not putting a really thick line, because if I did that, it's just going to seep through these little eyelets and empty spaces on the lace. And since this is 3-in-1 glue, it's going to stick pretty well, so. And then I put a heavier bead of glue along the edge that has been cut. If you don't, lace like this will fray, so. If you glue the edges, or you can even use fire, like flame, to melt the edge, so if you have a lighter. That only works if the fibers in the lace is made out of a synthetic. Like a polyester or something like that. If it's cotton, it's not going to work. It's just going to burn. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, I just like using glue. You might even be able to use fray check. If you don't have 3-in-1 glue, you could try attempting to do this with fray check, but that's a very expensive alternative. Like, I'm pretty sure by ounce fray check costs more. There we go. And to test to whether or not I can bend this. Bend, bend, fold, fold. Please fold nicely. There we go. Ah, it works. There we go. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and let this dry before attaching everything with it. So to double check, we have this lovely folder. And now that it's been dry on the back for a while, it's been a couple days, I'm going to go ahead and decorate the inside. I'm thinking for this one, might just do a puppet. Just checking this out, see if this works. Nah, it's a little bit chaotic. It's cool looking. I might do that with a different envelope, but that one is a lot going on with it. It was an experiment with a stamp that I got, a couple stamps. I just experimented with it. That's how it usually goes with my stashes, is I'll take a page and sometimes just stamp on it to see what would end up happening with certain stamps, like linen paper, because it's cotton and the way they press it, it'll have lines on it. So stamps on it will leave it's like faint lines on the image, while things that are really smooth, like 20-pound printer paper, it wouldn't leave lines. Some envelopes will bleed through, that kind of thing. So I like to practice my stamps and inks on papers, like different kinds of papers, to see how it reacts. Or just for fun, because why not? See what stamps work together. There we go. Thinking about doing multiple layer pockets. So the first layer is going to be up here. It's going to be a bigger pocket. And what I'll have is I'll attach it on the center seam, so each side will have a pocket. Alright, so I'm going to make the pocket that big. And this paper is onion dyed. Now the reason why the whole page isn't yellow is because I actually took a stack of paper and I just submerged the whole stack in the dye bath, and only the edges really got changed. And I think I want to make it a little bit more yellow, just because. Let's add a little bit of color on vintage photo, the edges. I'm not too worried about this raw edge down here because I'm going to cover that up in a minute. I wonder if I should do bundle sage. Or tattered rose. Yes, let's bring in the pink. Let's bring in the pink. We need some pink. It's such a light pink color. I'm gonna really work it in to make it pop. Oh, this colorization reminds me of a rose, like an actual rose that I've seen, where it's like pink on the inside and yellow on the outside. Oh, it's so pretty. I wish I had a garden where I can have like different color roses and everything in it. I'm not a big fan of the smell of roses, except for one rose that I found, and it was like a yellow color, and no joke, smelled like lemons. I've asked people if they've ever, like, garden centers before, if they ever heard of a rose that smelled like lemons. It was like a lemon colored rose, and people were like, what? Didn't believe me. I was like, ugh. But I went on Google, took me 5 years. 5 years, it's such a long time. But I was finally able to find the rose. And I don't remember what it's called right now, but I saved it on my computer so I can like go find this rose. So whenever I have a garden, I am planting that rose. It will be my favorite rose ever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue down the center line here. And I'm going to do this edge here. I'm going to do a different color. I wonder if I'll leave it the same width. I kind of like the thought of having it wider though. Maybe. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do a little wider. Figure out how wide we're going. We're just gonna make it that big of a pocket. I'm wondering if I do this. Yeah, let's do that. Smooth out this edge though. Usually I typically wouldn't care that much, but I do realize that if it's not a smooth edge on a pocket, whenever you try to put something in it, it'll catch on the edge. Mostly. Sometimes I'll leave a raw edge on a thicker cardstocky kind of material, because then it, like, even if it catches, it's not really gonna rip. And if you're wondering, this is linen paper that's been dyed. And if you can, use like linen paper or a thicker paper for pockets. It holds up better. But you don't have to. I've made pockets out of photos and newspaper clippings before too. In those cases, I actually will reinforce them though. Like maybe like 2 layers, put a backing on the photo, just so that the photo can withstand being used as a pocket. Glue on the edge. When it comes to pockets, don't leave it too big of a bead of glue, because you won't be able to put much in there. Because the wider the glue is, the smaller the pocket's going to be overall. So, off. And what I like to do is I actually will push tiny bit in, not much, just very tiny, inwards, so that the pocket has a little bit of room. Otherwise, it gets kind of squished. Again, just lightly push it in. Just gonna push this down a little bit more to make sure that it's nice and glued down. So there we go. We have 2 pockets here, 2 here, 2 here. Fold it again so it lays flat. And this should be dry already. There we go. I could go in here. Now that we have that, we have one more thing we're gonna do. And what I'm thinking of is actually just adding some paper on this side. That way when it opens up, this is like paper side that you can just jot notes down, and this side could be like a little area that you can put in paper notes. And then this can be ephemera you can place in here. Or extra notes, cards, things like that of that nature. Some onion dyed paper. Let's add in some coffee dye. Oh, do I have a doily? Let's see. I have a doily. Ha! Okay. Pages. This many pages makes it difficult to close, so I'm just gonna do 6 pages. Stay. Oh yeah, that stayed on really good. Okay. It still left a little bit of oxide off though. Just like that. So this is some cotton crochet thread, size 10, that I actually dyed in a dye bath with oh, what did I use? I think this is coffee. A really, really strong coffee. Cotton doesn't take dye nearly as well as like paper, unless it's a reactive dye. But if it's like a really, really, really strong cup of coffee or a really strong tea bath, you can get it to take on the stain pretty well. So you may be wondering what needle I'm using. I believe this is a tapestry needle. I'm not exactly sure. So I'm leaving it long tail, about a foot, maybe a little bit more. There we go. Then the same distance from here is the same distance I'm going here. I'm just eyeballing it. I just want to make sure that's wider than the paper. And my idea is doing this. Just tying it in, just like that. next step is to keep these together. So you don't have to sew if you don't want to bind anything like this. You can just simply glue the pages in or staple it, which is really easy too. I'm just binding off this little stack of papers together just so they can be switched out later if I fill them up and want to write something else different in this little trifold. Okay. Super simple binding. What I like to do is eyeball where the middle is going to be. Pierce it through, all the way through. Okay. Leave a little bit of a tail. Go up. Pierce. I want to pierce, you can do either or. You could pierce it where there's a hole in the eyelets, but I want to pierce in between. Where's the thicker piece? Alright. Okay, so I'm going to give a disclaimer. I have a history of being able to hand sew because I've spent like 4 years as a seamstress. So I'm used to knowing where my hand is compared to where the needle is going. So what I'm doing is I'm making sure that the hole that I'm placing is between my two fingers. So my fingers are actually stabilizing the paper before I puncture it through. I want to make sure that you guys can see that. But if you're cautious of it and don't really have that much experience working with needles, go ahead and put it down on the table or in between a book. Is a good option and a lot safer. So yeah, I'm just going to show this here. Right. Make sure those are aligned. Okay. I'll just put this on the downside. So same distance here, pretty much the same distance here. Doesn't have to be exact though. For me anyways, I just want to kind of get a general feel. What's more important for me is to make sure that I'm not putting too many holes inside the doily, so I'm not tearing the doily. Because the doily is the most fragile part of the stack of papers. And there we go. And then through here. The same hole. Be careful you do not puncture the yarn. Okay? What we're trying to do is go through the same hole. Work it through. Alright. Get it through. And pull through. Alright. So what I want is I want the needle to go next to the yarn like this through the hole. I don't want to go through the thread at all with my needle. And the reason for that is so you can be able to pull it tight. If you were to sew through this, you can only go so far before you can't go any further pulling it. So, just be careful. There we go. Just tightening it a little. Tugging. Don't go too tight because you don't want to tear the paper. Just snug enough. Okay, so this piece of thread is in between these two pieces. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a square knot. Okay. So I'm taking one thread, simple loop, like that, and then go the opposite direction. So if I went under, I am now going over. That same piece of thread and doing a square knot. Alright. That way it doesn't come undone. And there we go. If you wanted to do this and attach the whole piece together, you can do that too. Same concept. You sew through all this layer as well, and these. I do recommend if you do that to get a really big paper clip like a, let's see if I have one. Good jumbo clip. I don't know if I have one on my desk. Okay, but they have really big binder clips. You find them at Office Depot or whatever, and they're like huge. Like I'm talking about like the jumbo sized paper clips because they have a far enough grip space and you can grip it. So the paper aligned and the hole stays aligned, which is important. Otherwise, just have fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this alone and just cut the extra off so they're kind of the same size. Put it back and do this backwards. And then tie this in place too. In this case, I'm actually going to do more like a bow because this is not supposed to be permanent. Okay. There we go. Now it's staying in place. Just like that. And if the thread bothers you, you can cut them off. I like leaving them because I'm thinking I'm going to put like a little ornament on the inside or something. Maybe. Oh, and just going to push down paper here, get it flatter. Same thing on this side. You don't have to use a bone folder. You can use a card. You can use the back of your nail, like the side of the nail. Anything that has a rounded edge. It needs to be rounded because if it's flat and straight, you're going to tear the paper. So it needs something that needs to be rounded. Other than that, you can use anything. I used the side of a stamp before, like this hard side. I've used that too. It works. So there we go with that. And now we've waited for that to dry. We can now attach it. Alright, and this one again I'm using 3-in-1 glue. I don't suggest using a water-based glue when it comes to big pieces like this because it won't adhere very well. There we go. Huh. So, there we go. And you can put things in this little pocket. There we go. And we have this. It goes in here. Oh, before I forget, let's go ahead and walnut stain the sides here. Yeah, walnut stain. Because it needs to be thicker. I said thicker. Needs to be darker. Darker. To show, because it's, the color page is so saturated. Gonna be a little daring here and add a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of blue. And just trying to mute down the saturated reds in this a little bit, so it blends a little bit better with the muted reds that we have going on here. Alright. There we go. So that's a modified junk journal envelope for you. So here we have the envelope on the outside with multiple different layers on top of it. Multiple pockets for different ephemera. Okay. And then this tri-folded piece that was originally in this exact envelope that we created into a nice little tri-folded note and pocket piece. And then the back. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Then to close it, I just tie it. Just like that. There we go. It's a very loose tie. I'm going to tie that. Alright. There we go. Just like that. It's really super cute. I really like this. Alright. So thank you for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And take care. And oh, and if you like the video, again, please let me know in the comments below what you think, and if you want to see any more of the videos for junk mail, journal, ephemera pieces, let me know. And yeah, thank you for watching, and bye! Okay. Gotta set up the table. Gotta set up the table. So I have a little story since it's been it's actually been a day between the first part of this video, so it's been a lot longer time than you guys have been watching. But today I decided to try to make for the first time agar jelly. I don't know if you guys have had it before, or if you had, let me know what your favorite flavor is, because, you know, it's fun. Food is fun. But I have decided to make it, and in doing so, learned, like, I don't know how else to explain it. Whenever I make something new, it always makes me nervous, because I'm always afraid I'm going to mess it up, because I've burned pans before. It's possible. And I've done it. So this recipe, I'm looking at the back of the box, and it's saying that I have to cook it until it boils, and then turn down to simmer, and then cook it for another minute. And I was like, okay. And this flavoring is coffee. And if you guys ever had coffee before, it does have a distinct smell. And when you burn coffee, it also has a very distinct smell. And it smelled like light coffee when I first opened the packet, so I'm like, okay, cool. And I start cooking it. And I forgot which way I had this. Hold on. I think I had it. This way? Let's go with this way. And I was like, okay, so I start cooking it. And then I turn up the temperature on the stove because I'm like, it's still a little low and it's taking forever to boil, so I'm just going to turn it up a little higher. So I turn it up a little higher, and it starts boiling, and then it smells like burnt coffee. And I started freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, did I burn jelly? I was like, how is this even possible to burn jelly? And I was like, oh my goodness. So I'm like, I'm just going to finish the recipe, like finish it, and just hope for the best. I hope I didn't burn it. And so I'm like freaking out. I cool it down, and I put it into a pan, and I wait for it to solidify, and I'm like, oh, it still smells like burnt coffee. And then my husband's like, aren't you making jelly, the agar-agar jelly? And he's looking forward for it. And I was like, yeah, but I think I burned it. He's like, how did you burn it? I was like, I've never made it before. So I explained the situation of me possibly overcooking this jelly. And he's like, oh. And I was like, yeah. But I just cut into it after it's cooled down and everything. I was like, oh my goodness. I was so happy because it didn't burn. It actually tasted pretty good. So I was just like, Oh, that's my little fun story for today. It's I have a lot of little fun stories. Oh my gosh, my life. Whole lot of interesting.